Andre the Giant is one of the most recognizable wrestlers in history, but his real-life story has layers you've never known.
Back in the 80s, the World Wrestling Federation, now known as World Wrestling Entertainment, was a grab-tastic slam-stravaganza crammed with classic characters and legendary storylines, and Andre the Giant was the atlas holding it all up. But he also battled perpetually gained body mass and debilitating health problems. Meanwhile, the strain of fame destroyed him mentally.
He is said to be the largest and highest paid and best known wrestler in the entire world. Please welcome Andre the Giant.
By every measure, Andre the Giant was a whole lot of man. Besides size, he possessed unfathomable strength and a voice deeper than the ocean.
I'm not supernatural, I just myself.
Born Andre Roussimoff on a farm in the French Alps in 1946, Andre grew to be 7'4", according to the WWE, though he was likely closer to 6'11". Andre never lifted weights, yet acquaintances alleged he could lift trees and overpower 1,000-pound cows. For fun, he would occasionally wedge his friends' cars in between buildings. By the 70s, he was the most renowned wrestler on Earth, according to the Los Angeles Times. Then, in 1973, the father of Vince McMahon branded him Andre the Giant. Sports Illustrated's Terry Todd, who traveled with Andre, observed, "Going through a revolving door, he had to bend and take tiny shuffling steps to make the door revolve. He bent himself like a contortionist to fit in taxis, and hotel bathrooms left him with no room to bathe." Andre wasn't just larger than life, he was larger than daily life. Though the WWF dubbed him the eighth wonder of the world orbited Andre like a planet. The Giant revealed in one interview, "I would give much money to be able to spend one day per week as a man of regular size." Acromegaly, the cause of his size, gave him an unusual visage and made him the perfect target for bullying. Hall of Famer Bret Hart witnessed grannies curse Andre out for declining to sign autographs, and Mean Gene Okerlund said the Giant would cry because of all the teasing he endured. Andre eventually found refuge in the QVC channel. Per CBS Sports, it allowed him to shop without attracting unwanted audiences. According to co-workers, Andre's liver swam in an ocean of booze. USA Today reported that ex-wrestler Gerald Briscoe claimed the Giant downed 6 bottles of wine before matches. And Modern Drunkard magazine reported he racked up a $40,000 hotel bar tab while filming The Princess Bride. In an interview with David Letterman, Andre admitted,
"Is it true that you in one sitting drank 117 beers?
Yes.
But as CBS Sports revealed, Andre was living in pain. Years of wrestling and arduous travel ravaged his body, and his disorder caused his bones and joints to thicken, inflicting further stress. Pharmaceutical solutions existed, but he refused to take them. As filming for The Princess Bride began, Andre transformed into the lovable Fezzik. William Goldman, who authored both the screenplay and the book that inspired it, told CNN it was the only casting choice he specifically envisioned while writing the script.
It's not my fault being the biggest and the strongest. I don't even exercise.
Andre was so good in the role, it seemed inconceivable that he wasn't already a Hollywood heavyweight. No Small Parts reported Andre had previously played monsters, but The Princess Bride emphasized his humanity and allowed his personality to shine. Co-star Cary Elwes, who played Wesley, called him a real gentle giant who would give you the shirt off his back. During his incredible career, Andre battled many beasts. He knocked out the great Gorilla Monsoon, nearly flattened Harley Race, and defeated Hulk Hogan. But the Giant's biggest opponent was time. At age 23, Andre learned he could die by age 40, according to friend Jackie McCauley. 20 years later, Andre's knees were buckling, and he was becoming entombed in his body. As the Los Angeles Times detailed, by the early 90s, he was immobile. Once a titan who carried the wrestling world, Andre now needed others to do the heavy lifting. In January 1993, Andre returned to France to attend his father's funeral, and on January 27th, the Giant's gentle heart stopped beating. He was 46. The Los Angeles Times reported Andre wanted to be cremated and for his ashes to be spread over his North Carolina ranch. But no crematorium in France could handle a man of his magnitude. So best friends Jackie McCauley and Frenchie Bernard flew his body to the States, where it was reduced to 17 pounds of ashes, according to Bleacher Report.
When you got one true friend like him, that's all you need in this world. A true friend.
When he was young, it wasn't obvious that he would grow to such a remarkable size. However, when he first went to school, he discovered he was significantly larger than his classmates. Andre didn't inherit his size from his parents. His mother was only 5'2" and his father was 6'2". It apparently didn't come from nowhere though. According to family stories, Andre's grandfather was 4 inches taller than the giant would be at his peak, standing at an incredible 7 feet and 8 inches. When Andre started to grow even bigger and stronger, the adults in his life tried to give him advice and tell him what path to take. Regardless, the young Andre was determined to make his own decisions. He became interested in sports and was highly athletic as a child. He played soccer and rugby, and he trained as a boxer. Andre the Giant's life has become so mythologized that it can be difficult to determine historical fact from fiction. One of the most popular stories about Andre was that, as a child, he got regular rides to school by Samuel Beckett, the famous playwright behind Waiting for Godot. Cary Elwes relayed a story during the commentary track for the special features section of the film that Andre himself had told him. As the story goes, when the famous wrestler was a child, he had grown too big to fit on the school bus and had to be driven to school by car instead. His parents couldn't afford a vehicle, but his father, who was working as a handyman at the time, happened to mention it to a neighbor whose home he was working on, Samuel Beckett. Beckett had a car that could fit Andre, so he became his regular ride to school. Since then, members of Andre's family have set the record straight about their relationship with the playwright. It's likely that Andre and Elwes embellished the story. The wrestler's brother explained that there was never a school bus in their tiny hometown, so all the students had to walk. Beckett, who was indeed their neighbor, had a truck that he would use to give all the neighborhood children rides to and from school, including Andre. Andre left school as soon as he was able, at the age of 14. He didn't want to spend his life living on the family farm. He wanted to be somebody. His father didn't try to stop him from leaving, but he assumed that his son would come back home in a matter of days. Before departing, Andre told his parents, "If I make some money, you'll see me again, but if I don't make any money, you'll never see me again." When he finally returned home 5 years later, he was already massively successful. His parents had seen him on TV, but they didn't recognize the famous Andre the Giant as their son. His mother didn't even recognize him in person and slammed the door shut when he tried to come inside. Andre remembered it took her almost 10 minutes to open the door again. His parents let him in, but they still didn't realize who he was. It wasn't until he spoke to them in Polish, the language they had used in the house when he was a child, that they realized that their son had finally come home. Until the turn of the millennium, all French men over the age of 18 were required to spend time serving in the military. While visiting his family in 1965, Andre was sent a draft notice. As the story goes, a surgeon responsible for performing physical examinations to determine who was fit to serve spotted Andre and another man walking to the exam together. From a distance, he thought that Andre was of average height, and the other man was extremely short. The surgeon commented that there was no way such a small man would be allowed to join the army, but when the two got closer, he realized his mistake. As the surgeon had predicted, Andre was declared unfit for service because the shoes and cots the army provided were too small for him. It was also believed that he would be too tall to fight in trenches. Andre's size alone had disqualified him from military service, but even if the army had been able to provide him with a larger uniform, it's possible he still would have been exempt. His tremendous size and strength helped to make him a beloved star internationally, but they were the result of a serious medical condition. On a wrestling tour in Japan, where he was billed as Monster Rusimov, Andre had a medical exam in which the doctor diagnosed him with the glandular disorder acromegaly, sometimes referred to as gigantism. This rare condition causes the pituitary gland to create too much growth hormone. In addition to growing to a larger than average size, acromegaly can cause chronic joint pain and lead to conditions like heart disease. Andre never told his family about the diagnosis and refused treatment even when his condition became life-threatening. His close friend Jackie McCauley recalled the Giant saying, "If this is the size that God wanted me to be, I'm going to be this size." Unfortunately, it was complications from the disorder that caused the heart attack that led to Andre's death. According to wrestling promoter Arnold Skolin, however, Andre had already come to terms with his own mortality.
And that's why he drank and just did whatever he wanted to do, just to enjoy what time he had.
Andre's size brought him a lot of opportunities, but many aspects of life are designed with average-sized individuals in mind. Some standard objects were simply too small for him to use comfortably. During an interview with David Letterman, Andre described how difficult it was to stay in a hotel during his time in Japan because he couldn't fit through the doors. In a rare interview from the 1970s, he discussed a trip to Malaysia, during which he struggled to get a cab to stop for him. When one finally stopped, the driver got out to check that all the tires were still inflated once he realized his passenger's size. Andre liked to joke about being unable to fit inside vehicles, and he often said that he needed 2 cars to get anywhere. Wrestler Jake the Snake Roberts, who served as Andre's driver before stepping into the ring himself, would pick him up in a large van with a beanbag chair in the back. Arnold Skolin described how Andre had once told him that he very much wanted to go see a Broadway play, but when Skolin offered to get him tickets to see a show together, Andre refused, saying, "I can't fit in the seats. If I could find a seat, I'd be blocking everybody." Celebrities in general get a lot of attention when they go out in public, but Andre's distinctive frame made him especially recognizable. As such, he was constantly mobbed by fans. When on tour in Japan, Andre would playfully chase anyone he noticed trying to take his picture. When he caught them, he would sometimes break their camera, although his friend Ted DiBiase suspected that the wrestler paid them for the damage. In an interview with David Letterman, Andre joked that when people saw him coming into a bar, they were too intimidated to stay. When they did stick around, they were usually speechless.
What do they say when they see a man your size? Or when they see you?
They can believe it. They just look at me.
Yeah.
Andre loved his fans, but the constant attention he received made him feel uncomfortable and self-conscious. He frequented restaurants and hotels where the staff was respectful and didn't allow random people to bother him. His close friend and handler, Tim White, recalled that Andre had once wished they could switch lives for a week so he could experience the life of someone of average stature. On one occasion, when Andre was having dinner with a friend, no, not that Andre. When Andre the Giant was having dinner with a friend, he instructed restaurant staff to bring him a trash can full of beer and ice. While the vessel he chose to drink out of that night was certainly unusual, the quantity of beer he consumed wasn't out of the ordinary. Jake the Snake Roberts once recalled picking up beer after a show and purchasing 2 cases for Andre alone. Roberts told CBS, "He wasn't drunk. That was pretty amazing to me." As a professional wrestler, Andre the Giant was always traveling. He estimated that he was away from home almost 90% of the time, an average of 320 nights a year. Promoter Dory Funk told CBS that events with Andre sold out no matter where they were, from New York City to Los Angeles. He recalled that the WWE was willing to do anything to keep him in the ring. When he asked Vince McMahon Sr. how much Andre should be paid, the WWE chairman responded, "Just keep him happy." Promoters often assigned drivers for Andre, but with shows around the world, he typically had to fly. On flights, he would frequently ask for 2 or 3 dinners, and he always traveled first class because the seats in coach were too small for him. Andre would always check in advance that the hotels he planned to stay in were able to provide him with a king-size bed. He said that a hotel owner once tried to charge him extra for his accommodations by saying, "You're a big guy, you have to pay double." Even though Andre was constantly on the road, he always stayed close with his friends, including many that he had known since his childhood on the farm in rural France. Jacques Roussimoff finally remembered seeing his brother come back to town saying, "When we saw the car, we knew right away that the big one was here," as we used to call him. The village had a population of less than 30 people, so it was always a special occasion when Andre would return. His old neighbors had continued living in the village while he had traveled the world as a professional wrestler. They would go to a local cafe and play cards for hours. According to the owner of the cafe, when Andre and his friends played cards, he always paid for everyone, regardless of whether he won or lost. Although Andre the Giant was almost always on the road, he had a home in the United States, a ranch in Ellerbe, North Carolina. His home was known as the AFJ Ranch, with the initials referring to Andre alongside his friends Frenchie Bernard and Jackie McCauley. Bernard and McCauley stayed on the ranch and cared for the animals while Andre was away. McCauley told CBS, "We had the plumber come by and raise the shower head so that he would actually be able to take a shower without it hitting the middle of his back. And over the years, we purchased or had made 2 or 3 oversized chairs." Andre kept several dogs and raised Texas Longhorn cattle on the ranch. The locals knew they were neighbors with the wrestling legend, but most people left him alone so he could enjoy life away from his chaotic schedule in peace. At home, Andre was known to enjoy eating at the local Dixie Burger, watching QVC, and riding an ATV while being chased by his dogs.
Andre the Giant left behind an indelible legacy. Those who knew him would never forget their final moments with the legendary wrestler. Few wrestling matchups were as iconic as the rivalry between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, and in 2023, Hulk Hogan talked about his experiences with Andre. He shared with A&E's WWE Rivals. "I remember the first time I saw Andre the Giant. I just remember looking at his leg. It looked like the hip and asset of a Clydesdale. I was like, oh my God." Andre and Hulk Hogan went toe-to-toe on March 29, 1987, and that was the day everyone watched with breathless anticipation. The idea was that Andre, all 500-plus pounds of him, was going to be body slammed, and it almost didn't happen. At the time, Andre was already in extraordinary chronic pain that necessitated a back brace. Not only could he not help the Hulkster pick him up, but he needed carefully crafted breaks in between moves. One wrong move, fall, or slam could have had devastating consequences. The feud was legendary, sure, but outside of the ring, the two warmed up to each other. Hulk Hogan credited Andre with lending credibility to him in what he called such a beautiful storyline. In the same retrospective, Hulk Hogan reflected on the end of Andre's life, tearing up and needing to pause before continuing. He shared, "He just didn't know what to do with himself. He goes, 'I'm still living, but I don't feel like living anymore.' He passed shortly after that." Feuding is the name of the game in wrestling, and it turns out that's pretty true for what goes on behind the scenes, too. Disagreements between Andre the Giant and Vince McMahon are well publicized and the stuff of entertainment legend. At the time of Andre's death, they were still on the outs. As Bruce Pritchard discussed on his podcast, Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, McMahon and Andre had been incredibly good friends, but the better the friends, the worse the fallout. As he observed, "I think there was a little bit of regret that hadn't been completely rectified, and he didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye to his friend." In Andre the Giant, A Legendary Life, Vince McMahon recalled seeing Andre toward the end of his life. In the later days, Andre drank even more and internalized even more. He wasn't on the road anymore, so he felt like he had no value. I think that really got to him. Andre had an ego, and a good one, when it looked like he no longer had any value. I think that weighed on him more than anything else. When interviewers for an HBO documentary asked McMahon about the last time he spoke with Andre, he admitted that he couldn't specifically remember. He did, however, say that he tended to deal with negative experiences by locking them away and compartmentalizing things. He teared up as he explained, "If something hurts me, I get rid of it." He was special. Canadian wrestler and headliner Gino Brito spent a lot of time with Andre the Giant, telling the Bleacher Report that he always had a bit of a fatalistic attitude. They were traveling across Quebec together when he asked if Andre really truly felt the need to drink as much as he did. His response was heartbreaking. "Who cares? In a few more years, I'll be gone anyway." Brito recalled the point when Andre showed a true interest in something else outside of wrestling, his North Carolina ranch.
In North Carolina, I got a house in North Carolina.
Brito described it as a place for a giant to live. He added that it was the sanctuary Andre retreated to and that he relished the chance to live a life out of the spotlight. Still, life there wasn't as comfortable as he might have wished. Brito recalled seeing Andre during his final days and that each time he saw him, things were a little bit worse. He knew that eventually something would give out. His legs were swelling up like crazy. I don't know if he had gout or diabetes. His forehead was thickening. He was uncomfortable. He didn't like for anyone to see him with a cane, but just to walk to the ring was painful. In spite of the discomfort, Brito said he refused to see a doctor. He said, "I'll just keep going, then I'll drop dead." Referee Tim White was in the ring and in the middle of the action for many of wrestling's biggest matches. But before he was a referee, he was one of Andre the Giant's handlers. More than that, he was a friend and he participated in Michael Krugman's biography, Andre the Giant, A Legendary Life. It was heartbreaking stuff, and he recalled the last time he saw Andre. He had been traveling for work, and although Andre's North Carolina ranch wasn't really on the way, he stopped to see him. When I pulled away from the ranch, I was crying like a baby because he looked so bad. He could barely hide his pain. He, of course, didn't know it was the last time. He also recalled getting the phone call saying that Andre had already left for France and his father's funeral. I'm thinking how hard it was going to be for him to make the trip because of the way I saw him physically. Still, when he got the follow-up phone call that Andre too had passed away, it was a shock. I was devastated. I went numb. I went to my bar, the Friendly Tap. The place was closed and had a few beers just staring into space. While Andre's The Princess Bride co-star Cary Elwes hasn't discussed his final meeting with his friend, he has talked about the fact that while they were filming, Andre knew he was nearing the end of his life. He's also talked about the incredible attitude Andre carried with him, telling The Hollywood Reporter, "He knew he was dying, and so because of that, he cherished every moment. And he helped teach me that, about being present and grateful. When he shared with me that he knew he was going to die, I just about fell apart. But he always had a smile on his face, and I think he knew the secret." In his book, As You Wish, Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride, Elwes recalled overhearing Andre tell Billy Crystal, "We don't get such a good break, the little guys and the big guys. We don't live so long." But he also shared conversations with Andre's friends and family, who said that even in the traveling he did in his final years, he would always sneak into any theater showing The Princess Bride and cherish the experience. Wrestling mainstay John Laurinaitis, better known by his stage name Johnny Ace, recalled Andre the Giant's final wrestling matches in Japan. Up into the very final years of his life, he was still doing a series of appearances there. And they were really appearances because by that time, he wasn't physically capable of doing much more than that. But it was awe-inspiring. As he recalled in Andre the Giant, A Legendary Life, people loved him like a god over in Japan. The fans had such an appreciation and respect for what they did in the business. It wasn't about what they actually could do in the ring today. Laurinaitis recounted stories of how he was paired with Giant Baba and how the fans went wild when the two entered the ring. Fans of wrestling, and particularly of Andre the Giant, know the name Frenchie Bernard. After starting out as a wrestler in his own right, he gained more fame as a referee and later as Andre's handler. Bernard and his then-wife, Jackie McCauley, were some of the few people that Andre confided in when he was first diagnosed with acromegaly, including his reasons for refusing treatment. McCauley told Star News Online that just before Andre died, he was excited about a new movie role that had been offered to him. He was slated to star in a version of Jack and the Beanstalk. After returning to France for his father's funeral, Andre stayed for his mother's birthday, and then he passed away. McCauley recalled that they'd spent some time with him before he'd left, and she'd been admonishing him for putting on weight. When she later saw pictures of him that had been taken at his mother's birthday party, she said, "I was shocked. His skin was gray and powdery, and his eyes were so deep." McCauley flew to France to claim his body, and when she returned, she found he'd left a parting gift, a delivery of wine he'd ordered that his friends used to toast to his memory. At 2019 Steel CityCon, Wallace Shawn got candid about just how proud Andre had been of The Princess Bride in spite of his onset struggles. Shawn explained, he couldn't do feats of strength that people thought he could do, and he could have done 10 years earlier because he was losing his strength. He was very, very sweet and lovely, and I think he was really enjoying it, and then enjoying the fact that he was doing a great job. Mandy Patinkin, too, has said that he still carried some important lessons away from his friendship with Andre the Giant. He recalled via NPR his seemingly infinite kindness, which was made even more apparent as they wrapped shooting. The movie was over, the final shot was made, and we stayed around for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours while every person, every grown-up and their family came by, waited in line like children at Disneyland to stand with Andre and have their photograph taken. And he took his photograph with every single person that asked. And it was a lesson of a lifetime for me.
By the end of his life, Andre the Giant's gifts, willpower, and effort earned him a personal fortune of $10 million in modern money, which might surprise people as less than expected. Some of it he gave to the caretaker of his ranch and the caretaker's wife, two of the people named in his will. The rest of it he gave to his daughter, Robin Christensen Rusimov, whom he barely knew but wanted to support even in death. Andre the Giant never intended to have children. Medically, as an article published in the Reviews in Endocrine and Metabolic Disorders explains, there are a lot of difficulties facing men with acromegaly who want a family. Jean Christensen, the mother of Andre's daughter, Robin, thought Andre was sterile, as she said in a 1990 interview. Christensen's pregnancy came as a shock, and she and Andre's relationship started crumbling shortly after Robin's birth. For his part, Andre didn't want to be an absentee father, but his schedule kept him on the road. Robin grew up seeing her father here and there, more as a figure orbiting her life than a daily presence.
He's my dad, but he isn't, like he's really never there.
Her mother, Jean Christensen, wanted to shield her daughter from Andre's celebrity persona. Speaking of her mother to CBS Sports, Robin said, "She wanted me to form my own opinions on my dad, not what the media sold him as." One of Robin's most prominent memories of Andre is when he took her to see The Princess Bride, but kept his role in the movie a surprise. According to Sports Illustrated, when Robin saw Andre on screen, she freaked out and screamed, "That's my dad." Andre's friend, Jackie McCauley, told CBS Sports that Andre's distance from his daughter broke his heart. Christensen also wanted to keep some distance between herself and Andre, and didn't want to travel with Robin to visit him when he was alone at his North Carolina ranch. Andre didn't draft an extensive will, but bequeathed everything to 3 people. He gave an unknown, flat sum of money to the caretaker of his ranch in North Carolina and the caretaker's wife. Every other single thing he had, money, possessions, licensing, and name rights, etc., he gave to his daughter, Robin, who was around 14 years old when he died. They hadn't seen each other since she was 10. But Robin, it turns out, thinks well of her father and their sparse but meaningful relationship. She also not only inherited her father's size, she's 6 feet tall, but went into wrestling herself for a while. As she said in the 2020 book, The Eighth Wonder of the World, the true story of Andre the Giant, "Maybe had he lived longer, I might have had a closer relationship with him. Perhaps he would have been proud of my successes. I'll never get to really know who he was as a person."
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has come a long way from asking if you can smell what he's cooking. These days, he's obviously a bona fide movie star. Despite his international fame, he also remains humble. In his TV show Young Rock, he looks back on his life before becoming a globally known A-lister. The show's premise is that Johnson's giving a far-ranging get-to-know-you interview to Randall Park as part of his presidential run. See? Very humble. Johnson's childhood does make for good TV. His childhood was surrounded by a who's who of wrestling superstars, including Andre the Giant. It's no surprise that Johnson went on to become a wrestler himself. Wrestling is in his genes, and the Johnsons built sort of a wrestling dynasty. Johnson's father, Rocky, was a pro wrestler himself and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2008. Johnson's maternal grandfather is also a wrestling legend. High Chief Peter Maivia is another WWE Hall of Famer. Johnson even made his debut in the WWE under the name Rocky Maivia in a simultaneous tribute to both his father and grandfather. Being steeped in such a long and storied wrestling history, it only made sense that Johnson would meet other personalities. His grandfather introduced Johnson to Andre the Giant, who had a big impact on his life and is portrayed in Young Rock by actor Matthew Willig. Andre the Giant often hung out with Peter Maivia in Hawaii, where he ran a wrestling training center. Young Rock features several moments of Andre the Giant instilling life lessons to a young Dwayne Johnson. In one scene, young Dwayne, known as Dewey in the TV show, begs his parents to take him to see a screening of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but both are too busy. Instead, he ends up getting taken to a night at the movies with Andre the Giant, forcing everyone else in the audience to crane their necks trying to see past the 7-foot-tall wrestler. It's made clear on Young Rock that Andre the Giant meant a lot to Johnson growing up. Andre the Giant and Johnson's grandfather were reportedly the best of friends. Johnson has said Roussimoff was often at their house for meals or just to hang out. He'd drink with Johnson's father and grandfather and play cards. He said Roussimoff was very close to the whole Johnson family. Johnson often posts photos of the two on his social media accounts. He talked about watching both men wrestle every night, and in his words, live life to the fullest. Johnson said his uncle Andre taught him several lessons on respect, and, to reach the young boy, would often pick him up so they could be eye to eye, a scene often repeated on Young Rock.
Hey! What are you looking at?
Johnson probably got a lot of advice about Hollywood from Andre too. And now that he's a world-renowned movie star and has a TV show about his early life, The Rock probably wishes his Uncle Andre was here to watch it with him.